Sawubona Sis Dana.
Sawubona Zoe.
Unjani?
Siyaphila kunjani?
I am so honored to be having this moment with you. I have been looking up to you as a cultural icon, as someone who has pioneered a lot of what we hear in our sounds, in our imagery, in our storytelling. And I've always wondered what giving you flowers would look like. So to be able to have this moment and to see you in it is so beautiful to me. So I'm so happy to be here with you, not just to give you your flowers, but to also plant the Dana seeds, and kind of pay your story forward and be a part of that in the smallest kind of way, But how have you been going into the new year, Unjani?
Well, firstly, I have to say that I love your work. And I'm glad that you are in the music industry, and your contribution to the cultural landscape, I think, is very, very important.
Thank you.
So sitting down with you right now is quite something special. And yes, how am I? We're okay. We're okay. It's been a tough 3 years, pandemic, etc., but we're okay. And we're glad to still be here and to still be doing the work that we love and to still be appreciated.
Yeah. I wanted to ask something. I've been having this very interesting fascination about names. And maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but Simphiwe means who is given to us.
Yes.
Right? I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
Yes.
Is there another name that you have besides that one?
My other name is Sinetemba.
Ha! That's actually so beautiful. Are you able to separate Simphiwe Dana that we know to Usinetemba, to the person? Do you find that you have to separate those two, or do you find that those spaces exist simultaneously?
Usinetemba is quite different from Simphiwe. Usinetemba, it comes with an expectation. It comes with a responsibility. Usinetemba means we have hope. So it literally means that I'm supposed to come and fix, be the relief, in people's lives, which is a huge responsibility. And as you know, in African culture, you really follow your name, and your name comes with a certain expectation. You are literally given that name so that you follow it. It's an instruction on your life. So that one, whereas Simphiwe is a gift. You are a gift to us. It comes with no expectations. Just come and be a gift and shine. So it really, how do I put this? There's a kind of clash in the names, right? So there's a time to take on responsibility, and then there's a time to shine. Both names stand for different things.
I completely understand that. I've got 3 names. I've got Upalisa, flower, Nomthandazo, mother of prayer, and Uphumelele, success.
Yeah.
So I understand also that kind of war between those names and the purpose in that. But I have to share something with you. As Nomthandazo, as Upalisa, as Uphumelele, I actually came to know of you when my mother, my very cultured mother, went to the Cape Town International Jazz Festival. And she goes there a lot. She goes there almost every single year. And she was like, Balisa, you will not believe. I just watched this artist. I'm like, oh my, ma. And she's like, you won't believe. She was in a smaller venue that was booked out for her. I think you were a debut artist at the time. And she was actually explaining to me how people from the outside wanted to come in and they needed to get you a bigger venue, And I think the only other person that had happened to is Uma Makeba. So like how did you receive that moment, and what did that moment mean to you, being received so immediately, so explosively in that way?
I'm actually getting goosebumps thinking about that moment. It was surreal, because the organizer Billy Domingo literally came on stage while I was performing. I was like, what is going on? Like, I could hear a little bit of commotion there, but I didn't think it had anything to do with me. So I continued performing. And then he came on stage, and then we had to stop. I was like, okay, what's going on? And then he addresses the audience. He's like, okay, we are aware that there's quite a commotion outside. I think people had broken bones even. We called ambulance for some people. But we are aware that there's quite a high demand for this artist, and we listen to our audiences. So after she's done with this, we're going to put her on an outside venue and on a bigger stage.
Yes.
That was my first performance. My second official performance, and it was so surreal for me. I had no idea what was going on, and I got doubly paid that night.
Yes. Cha-ching!
Yes, definitely. So it was a historic moment for me.
Absolutely.
Particularly because when I came out in the industry, there was no sound like mine, right? And there was always, of course, that peer pressure, that you want to succeed, this is what the market wants right now. And me being very true to myself, being very honest with my creativity, I knew I could not be, what the industry supposedly wanted at the time. Culturally, there was a lot of kwaito and house music and this and that. So I persevered in doing music my own way, and I honestly did not expect the response that I got, from South African audiences. So I remember my mom calling me saying, "You've made it! I just heard your song on Metro. Oh my God!" Very excited. But literally, the response, it caught me by surprise. It caught me by surprise. I thought I was just going to be, like a small lounge artist somewhere, but at least I would be doing something I'm passionate about.
Yes. And that turned into you being a household name and being the soundtrack to our lives. Literally, because I think of another moment where I was in high school and my cultured mom, once again, was like, hey, Dana's performing. The venue escapes me, the name of the venue escapes me, but it was in Bromfontein, and I remember you were there with your band. And then many years later, we would be able to share a moment giving tribute to the amazing, late, great cultural icon of Simphiwe Dana. I had to pinch myself a few times. When you admire people, around them. Because I also kind of have an idea, maybe not to your extent, but I have an idea of what admiration feels like. So I kind of wanted to have a human experience with you in that moment. But I was like, oh my goodness, this is someone who was my education. Because a lot of the times I was practicing for many hours in a day as a classical musician, and you actually gave me the context of being an African storyteller. You were one of my educators in that kind of way. So there is this relationship that you've spoken about with Simphiwe Dana.
Oh my gosh.
There's a sisterhood and an embrace that she had of you. I think I've definitely experienced that of you, but what was that like, kind of taking in or being taken in by Simphiwe?
Lebu was a very loving somebody. She was truly a sister. And I think she took a special liking, to me as a young artist, like a sister. Like, she saw me as her younger sister, and she was always very gentle with me and very straightforward with me. And even when we did that song with her, she did not shortchange me because I was a nobody at the time. She paid me my due. So she was that kind of artist, which I really appreciated about her. But just generally, she was quite gentle with me, and I learned a lot, having her as my big sister. I think that's one of the reasons where I knew and I found my place. I understood that every artist has got their space, and you must not try to be like other people. We are all unique, and there's nothing wrong with that. With being different.
Absolutely. And I've really seen the idea of sisterhood play out with you? There was a performance that I'd gone to where you featured Amifako and Buika. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right.
Yes, Buika,
yes. Yes.
And
Msaki as well.
Yeah.
And what has that meant to you to kind of facilitate those spaces?
I feel like I have not done enough, and that is partly because I'm a very reclusive person.
Yes.
I really would like to do more for the generation that's coming up, mentorship, stuff here and there. I feel like I've not done enough. I like to hide from society a lot. If you see me now, you probably won't see me again for a year.
Until next year.
That's how reclusive I am. But, as I grow older, I feel like there's more I can do. Yeah.
I completely hear that. And as a person who keeps to myself as well, I really do relate with that. But even as you keep to yourself, you've still been able to release 5 albums in the span of 2 decades. This is Uzandisile. This is the One Love movement on Bantubiko streets, Culture No, which has Umayine that I'm crazy about, Firebrand, Bamako. When you look at the different roles that you've had to play as a musician, as a songwriter, as a singer, in the studio, performance, which of those spaces do you feel most like yourself, or what do those different spaces mean to you?
I feel like myself mostly on stage. Studio is painful.
I thought I was the only one.
No, studio is painful. It's painful, especially actually throughout, but the very beginning, you have never felt so inadequate in your life as when you first start writing. It's a very painful process, but quite rewarding when it's done. And I think partly it's painful because you literally are trying to bring out words and melody from a blank wall. From, a white wall, there's nothing there, and you must bring it out. It's like a sculptor where they take a piece of wood and then they bring out an art piece from it. It's the same with music. You've got nothing in the very beginning, and you must create something out of nothing. And that's why I usually go into studio when I need to purge. By the time I go into studio, I'm like I'm gonna explode, right? But usually it takes a lot of emotional drama, etc., for me to go to. I don't just go willy-nilly. I want to write a song now. No, when I go, I know I'm going to be there for 2 years because I have a lot that I need to purge.
Yes.
So it's quite painful and therapeutic in many ways. You're purging. And when you purge, it's not only it's actually usually negative stuff that you are purging because you're trying to heal. So studio is not nice. It's not nice. I'm not a fan at all. But once you get on stage, it's so worth it.
Yes.
It's so worth it. Stage is godly. It's the closest I'll ever get to what I call Umvelinangi, Idlozi Kulu, God, Allah, all of these different spiritual spaces, what they call that entity. It's the closest I'll ever get to that.
There is this term that you had coined. I'd watched one of your interviews recently, and it was the spiritual revolution and being a part of that. Do you recognize yourself as a healer in the music space?
That's what people say, right? Now, all I know is that when I go into studio, I'm trying to heal myself. I'm purging, So I think it's the honesty in doing that, right? Then people get to identify with it and take their lessons from it for their own lives, right? It resonates. But, I don't have a messiah complex where I'm going to go out there and heal people.
Yes.
No. I'm trying to deal with my own stuff, And by virtue of doing that, it then resonates with a lot of other people.
And you've talked about how a lot of life experiences that you've gone through have put you in a position of having a lot of empathy for abantu. And in that way, being able to then heal in that space as well.
Yeah, I grew up quite poor. And there were times that I would be the laughing kid. So I grew up poor, right? But, I was an overachiever. So I would find myself in spaces where I would not necessarily have been in with my, background. Like I would end up in private schools and all of this because I was an overachiever. And in those schools, I'd be the poorest in class, and I would get like people laughing at me behind my back, but not quietly enough for me to hear. Like they wanted me to hear, And then even before that, just like my mother used to sustain us with her garden. And we had a huge garden at home. Planted umbona, amazambane, spinach, onion. We had fruit trees, tomato, all of this, right? And then on weekends, she would make us take a wheelbarrow and go and sell these, and then we sold sweets at school and ice cream and all of these things, right? And all of these, made us to be seen as pitiful in many ways, and sometimes be treated as such. So all of these experiences, you would never see me, ridicule someone. I may react to someone ridiculing me in an angry manner, but you will never hear of me having gender kala umuntu and started bullying her. I don't have that in my nature. And even when I do get bullied, I try and understand first before I react. So I and also my mom taught me empathy. My mom was always there for anyone who needed help. She would go over and above the call of duty to be helpful to that person. So having that kind of humble background and slightly traumatic background had the effect of making me a highly empathetic individual.
I can imagine that. I see so much humility even in the stories that you've shared about living a life of self-sufficiency, going to pick up wood, going to Tolamat and Bulen and all of that kind of thing. How much of the life experience from your childhood was the building block of the stories that you share with us?
When I lived in the village until I was 8, right? And in the village, you grow up very fast. By the time you are 4, you are going out there to your chasing kuni, we are commands and lunching. Like there's no time to be a kid, but there's also time to be a kid. There are serious chores that you have to do, but once you are done those chores, you can play to your heart's content. And those days it was safe for kids, right? We would roam around the forest, go down the hills, to go and swim in the rivers and go hunting for birds, with these agila, and we had a great childhood. And then we would sail down, grassy hills on cardboards. It was so much fun growing up. And then jalukapu that would make out of grass, like that tall, that long grass. So I had an idyllic. I didn't know that I was poor. I think I only started feeling poor when we moved to Zolo, which was it was called town village, because it literally was somewhere in between. It was not really a town, but it was not really a village either. So those 8 years, let's say 5 years, because it's only around 3 years that I started being aware or being conscious of my surroundings. They were really idyllic to me. And, we had a garden even there as well. I was raised by my grandparents with a huge garden. We had chickens, we had cows, we had pigs, we had sheep, and we could make all of our own food.
Isn't that wealth, though?
That was wealth. And I feel like post 94, we lost all of that, and I don't know why. I try to understand it. When I go back now home to the village, there's none of that. There's none of that. And every homestead, I must see me park with the way that we still born, and here we just amazambani, nentoni, cabbage, all of that. We saw, and then I would go with my grandmother, That's when I would then taste fried chicken, like KFC, and then would buy bread and sugar, things that we normally did not have, because what we ate was what we had at home. And then we'd buy brown bread, that was a big thing, because we usually made our own bread and stuff like that. So I had a lovely childhood in that manner. That was quite balanced between responsibility and being a child.
Yes, yes.
So I think from that experience, I learned individuality. I learned what freedom means. That as I grew up, I found it strange how people were so reserved and this and that. Like they're almost scared of life, I never had that. I learned that when I went into the big city, but people are strange here. They're not so free as I thought people are, And I would see that lack of freedom or that dead look in their eyes from people that had gone to the city and then came back to the village.
Do you think that freedom and that sense of not having inhibitions, whilst being as influential and impactful as you are, how has that translated into how you express yourself, especially in spaces like social media? Because I think you have a lot of strength in those spaces that I wish I had. I tend to just turn the other cheek, keep quiet, not say anything, because I don't want to have to deal with what's on the other side of being a part of a conversation. But how have you been able to kind of exist in those spaces with that freedom, with that sense of self and a sense of I'm going to share who it is that I am and not be afraid of that?
There was a long time where I felt we needed to elevate the consciousness of the country. And the thing is this, as creatives, we get afforded so much time to observe society.
Yes.
We literally, that's how, our careers are structured. We observe society and ourselves within that society, and then we express that in our various art forms. Right? And obviously that comes with a lot of intuitiveness or intuition that you grow, you cultivate rather from being that observer. I always say, but I have my pulse, my finger on the pulse of the consciousness of the nation. So from those observations, you then tend to want to impart that. But guys, this is where we are now. This is what we need to do after observed. And if you go this way, it's not going to work. If you go this way, it's not going to work. This is the way to go. So I did that for quite a long time, right? And I made predictions that came through.
Which are some of them?
No, I'm not going to. Okay, you're not going to mention. One day when I'm long dead, people said, "Oh, Simphiwe did this." Like when my legacy is examined,
yes,
all of that will come out. But it came from observing society and loving my people enough to say, here are the pitfalls, here are the pitfalls, here. Did you know? Kind of thing, right? But I've now passed on the baton. I'm not interested anymore in doing that. I'm leaving the space for those I have taught, for those that are coming after me. I do think that it's important for those artists who've got the voice to use it in service of humanity, but it should not define an artist. You're not an artist because you're a social justice activist. You don't have to be one. You don't have to be one. And those who feel compelled to be that, they should be.
I completely understand that. And I was actually going to ask you about whether, even in your personal life, do you feel like you have had to be the poster kid for the Black experience, or the poster kid for queer story or queer existence, for motherhood, for women in the industry? Do you think you've had to be the poster kid for all these boxes that people attach you to?
The thing is every time, I would be surprised every time, how, the reaction to things that I said. So I was just like, but this is what everyone, this is not news, but it actually was news. For me, I would take it very lightly, but, I said this, and this is what people know. I'm just like, amplifying like the voices, So I would always be quite surprised at the reaction to things that I said, like they were brand new. I thought I was just a part of a group, of social activists who use their voice for, for the good of humanity. But I did realize at some point, but I would always be so shocked about why are they reacting like this? And I'd be like, I didn't say anything like that huge. It's like, just said something that everyone is thinking or kind of like that. But I did then realize, okay, no, you are Simphiwe Dana. It's just like, and I'm like, but there are other big names that say these things. Why is it when I say it,
there's that reaction?
There's that reaction. And I still don't know why, by the way. But I'm grateful that I did try in my way to use the empathy that I have to cultivate social justice and to bring consciousness, especially when it comes to identity and all the pitfalls around identity, especially post-colonialism, post-apartheid, for the Black experience.
And looking into the idea of the Black experience and knowing that you are a part of something bigger, I think there was a performance you had where you performed Umayine and you had dedicated the song to Mambusi Mhlongo. And you've also had collaborations with the works of Oprah, Jonas Mwangwa, and speak highly of Umam Dorothy Masuga and the fact that she's an incredible songwriter. What does it mean to you to be a part of a lineage? And you've also been likened to Mamure Maged as well. What does it mean to you to be a part of a lineage, part of a heritage, part of this something bigger, this story that we are all in some ways involved in, and that I feel artists of your era are also passing down to us who are coming afterwards? What does it feel like to be a part of this ecosystem that is us?
I think I do kind of exist in a bubble, because I don't think about those things.
Okay.
I really don't think about those things. I'm just hurtling through the universe, through life, just doing my own thing, and just being true and honest to myself. I am quite a pedantic person when it comes to my creativity, when it comes to my work in general. So I always go extra. Every dot must be in the right place.
Yes.
So if I'm going to write a song for Mambusi, I go very deep within my experience of her, right? And make sure that the emotion is in line with how I feel about the subject. So when I wrote Mayina, I literally wrote that song for Mambusi. It's a very tumultuous time in her life. I literally was crying in studio when I went to record that song because of how heavy her experience was, how it, on my shoulders, it was so heavy. Mambusi was such a beautiful person right to the end. I remember I would be on tour in Europe, and, while in between flights and stuff, I would call her when she was quite sick. And I would call, just check on her, feeling so sad. And you know what she would do? She would turn it around and make it about me, give me all of this life advice. I love you so much. How are you doing? What's happening there? She just had that nature that really broke me in many ways. But here you are suffering and you're facing, imminent death. But all you can do is just praise me and comfort me and encourage me and tell me how amazing you are. So I wrote Mayine with all of that happiness, all of that love that I received from her sitting here on my shoulders, and just the unfairness of it all. I think that was for me the overall thing. That's why I was praying for blessings, praying for life for her, praying for rain onto this parched land. That was her life. So slowly dying, in every way. And it really broke my heart. It really broke my heart. And I just wish that we had been able to do more for her while she was alive. Like proper give her flowers while she was alive.
That's it. But I think you played your part in doing that, because there's a performance where I think it's yourself, it's Umam Spongile Kumalo, and her as well.
Yes.
So I definitely think, yes, looking regal. I think all of you were looking very regal. I think you definitely did pay forward, even with Mayine and being able to sing her song with her. I think that's one of the most beautiful ways that we can pay this beautiful story forward. The reason why I'm attached to the song Mayine is because of the water element. I feel like for me, that is my idea of God. I love the way that it is still. I love the way that it is angry. And I actually wanted to ask you about your new production, Umoya, the collaboration with Ubutu Gregory Makoma. Titi Lizzy was there as well. Knowing what that is, I see you as a person on Umoya, but also thinking about the element of air, the fact that it is still, that sometimes it is angry, that it takes on so many shapes and forms. What does this production mean for you? Where is it from yourself that you're taking it from?
Umoya is a representation of spirituality or spiritual experience. When someone is having a spiritual experience, kuthiwa unomoya. Umoya was a dedication. I don't know if I would say dedication. When my mom passed, it was me trying to make sense of her passing, and trying to make sense of the emptiness that I felt, and reaching out to God. I call the entity, it wasn't cool, for comfort.
So Sis Dana, when you decided to heed the calling that was music, where did you find the connect between your life experiences, yourself as an observer, between the people, the music, and the messaging? When did it all come together and make sense? Because when you came out with something so new, something so true, something that was nostalgic and yet of the future at the same time. So how did you connect and create this world for us to receive?
The influence was the Joburg cultural landscape when I finally found my tribe. I think for about a year, 2 years, I was roaming the streets trying to find myself, right? But the people that I was with who knew Joburg very well were not part of this tribe I was looking for. So I ended up in a lot of different spaces that were not conducive to my personal growth as an artist. And then when I finally found my crowd, it happened there was a place called 206. It's a club, but not really a club. One day I stumbled across this place because my friends had nowhere else to go and they wanted to go out. And it was like a poetry session. What do you call it when anyone can just get on stage?
Like an open mic.
An open mic, definitely, exactly, an open mic session. And I found my crowd. I was like, oh my God, this is where I belong, right? With the kind of temperament that I have and just outlook generally on life and spirituality and consciousness. So I found the people that were speaking my language and I was quite happy. They helped me grow a lot. But something was missing in it for me. I felt the experience was very much premised on American Black consciousness. That did not resonate with me as a village girl, right? And I also felt bothered by how much I wanted to acclimatize and be a part of this. If you remember, I don't know how it is now, but when we grew up, we were we were being conscientized to move away from our cultural roots, right? So you had to speak English. You had to see your own as something backwards. Yeah. So, even at school, if you take this course, you'd be punished for that. You must speak English. So there was a lot of those self-esteem issues that really came to the fore when I became a part of that space. That also bothered me about the people around me. That I think I became rebellious. But this cannot be the Black experience in Africa. There has to be a different way of expressing ourselves. And also dealing with my own personal self-esteem issues around my brand of Blackness. Right? So for me, writing in isiXhosa was a personal challenge to myself. Because I was like, there must be a different way to express our Blackness than, using the American culture, the Black American culture as the yardstick. And I drew then from my childhood experiences, like how I grew up, and the village, the school choir, the church. I drew from all of those experiences, and because what that space did, it made me proud of who I am, but the context of it, I did not agree with. It opened me to myself to a point where I was like, no, actually, if we're going there, let's go there all the way. Let's go back to who we are, because we are not Black Americans. Yes, they conscientized us, to be proud of who we are. But who are we? Who am I? I'm not Nina Simone. As much as I love Nina Simone, I am Simphiwe Dana, the village girl who used to go to school barefoot. That's who I am. And it's because I'm top notch.
It really is.
So it was, that kind of thing was not popular then. There was a lot of English, but the messaging was proper. But the cultural context was slightly off. So then it was a personal challenge. The rebellion was towards myself and my self-esteem issues surrounding my identity. That's how it all started for me.
I find that to be so fascinating. And I think for me, what's so heartwarming about this conversation is hearing a lot of your experiences and aligning them as parallel to my own. Because that was my history as well, of coming from KwaZulu, being passionate about a lot of the things that I am, my upbringing, and then moving to a lot of spaces in South Africa and getting a lot of different cultural contexts of the Black experience. And then kind of wondering, where do I fit in all of this? Trying to break away at the code switching, trying to break away at trying to appease to a Western gaze, but looking into the power of language. And that people who probably have the same eyes I do, have the same nose as I do, have been speaking it long before I was even a thought and an imagination. So I think that is so incredibly powerful, But when it comes to connecting people, you've really been able to do that in so many different contexts. From the band setup to orchestral works, you've been able to really allow us to marvel at what the Black story can look like, what the African story can look like, and that it doesn't take just one shape and one form, that there is a power to it, there's a magic to it, and there is a production that you're working on alongside Gregory Makoma, as well as Titilu Zipho, and that's to name a few. I'm so taken by the name of the piece called Umoya. I'm taken by it because it's an element because I'm a water person. That's why I love Mayini so much as a song. But I love that it can have a stillness to it. It can have a rage to it. I wanted to know what that was for you, what encapsulating that word is for you, what that I don't even want to call it a show, but what that story is representing. What is it that you're trying to tell with that?
For me, growing up in church, particular, there would be that moment where people would become spiritually elevated. They're on a different plane altogether. Basically, right? And it usually was triggered by a song. And then you don't know what's happening, just something swoops over everyone, and everyone just starts going crazy, right? And Umoya would start with a song all the time. So for me, Umoya, it represents our essence beyond the physical. Umoya represents our divinity, the part of ourselves that has lived and will continue to live long after we've shed these bodies. Umoya is a communion with the divine. And after my mom's passing, I needed that communion with the divine to remember who I am beyond the physical, to remember that everything passes, but everything stays the same. And I needed to really commune with the divine, to understand that and put my grief in context. And then there's this part of it. My mom, when the stories that I hear, she was the best church singer the Eastern Cape has ever seen. When she was young, way before we were born. She was known, apparently, to be that guy.
Wow.
That she would be loaned by other churches. Please come and sing for us. Like, so she would be, And as a result, she was the most sought after by men. Yeah, like she was always running away because everyone wanted this special person to own.
Yes.
And like I would get a glimpse of that because Mama was very quiet. Apparently, in fact, I know this. She had this very calm voice, nothing a man's when she sings, which I actually got to understand. I can imagine when she was young and she was standing for Utabang when she sang, literally, break down and fall apart. Umoya weshe umoya. And she raised me in church, Assemblies of God, a church that had no instrumentation at the time. Our hands, our voices, our feet were the instrument. And I learned a lot from that, and also like the school choir. So because of the upbringing, she instilled in me, let's say, she had always wished that I would go back to that. Because even myself, by age 12, I would sometimes lead the church choir. So I was following in her footsteps, even without knowing when I was young. So I was a very serious Christian, extremely serious. I would even convert the kids at school, say, come, let's pray.
Wow.
And try and speak to them about God and this and that. And I would fast, go up. There was a hill in my town village that when I fasted, I used to love to go up, take my dog with me, honey, and we'd go up there, and then I would pray there. And I was a very serious Christian. But what it grew into being was that it's spirituality. It's got nothing to do with religion. It's a spiritual, it's umoya, what I'm talking about. So I tried to dissuade my mom from this church. But no, Mama, I got to tell you, it's all around us. It's the essence of who we are. You know, it's the connection to the divine, right? So when she passed, there was a strong need to explore that. And it didn't come as, but I need to explore this. It just came naturally. Like I felt a strong pull towards the communion with the divine. I knew I would find healing and peace there. So I started writing these songs just to purge. Remember, you know, always for me, it's about purging. And I think what came out of it, Mama is proud of it. Is quite proud of it because I honored her wish.
Because that was her wish for you. Say,
yes,
can follow in this path again.
Yes, I honored her wish without going outside of myself. You know, so that's what Moya is. It's a healing circle. It's communion with the divine. It's a way of finding peace.
Oh my goodness. Now, when we look at a being that you are to us, to South Africa, to the entire world, and then we pull it back and we go back into the human being. Have you ever been curious about documenting your life through memoir, through a movie, I know you've done it through your music, but have you ever seeked to want to share more of yourself outside of what we've already known of you?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think that will happen naturally. Even after I'm gone, I think the same way I was sold like here and then we're not, invested in doing that. But long after they've been gone, people have been writing and researching about their lives. I'm more interested in bringing the past and the future into the present through my work. That's really what I'm most interested in.
Yeah. And I think that brings me to legacy. I've always had a very interesting relationship with achievement as an artist. I don't think you can quantify artistry, but you did speak about being younger and being an overachiever, and I guess my assumption is that meant you seeing achievement through the form of something. Do you, as an artist, and by extension as a human being, do you feel seen in what you've been able to contribute to our story? And what does being seen look like to you?
I do feel seen. And I always get surprised by it, when it happens. I'm just expressing, expressing my life, my thoughts and my feelings, and I won't say it always catches me off guard, but sometimes the response is like, okay, I hear you. I didn't realize that it was this intense, kind of thing. But I do feel seen. I think my work, I've come to realize that my work is important for a lot of people. I may not acknowledge it as much as perhaps I should because of my own inadequacies, etc. But I do feel that my work has had an impact.
And it has a big one.
Yeah.
It has had a very big impact. I was very moved by this tweet that you recently put out where you were talking about looking for someone to sing a song that you wrote years back. And I saw a lot of like tags for Desire Maria. Is Tandana Samle, so I know they also adore you a great deal. What does collaboration look like to you? And are you interested in writing with other artists, for other artists, with some of your peers, younger artists, legacy artists? What does that look like to you?
How do I say this? I'm the kind of artist who always feels inadequate. I'm scared of working with other people because they're gonna find me lacking.
Interesting.
I don't even like to record in other studios. I want to do it by myself so that I'm not gonna feel self-conscious. But I really do want to work with other people, But I always feel like, what if they don't like it? Or what if they bring me to their song and I can't deliver? Because I feel like my kind of style of music is off the tangent. It's not your established style, kind of. I don't know if that makes sense. And every time I start to write something, it always feels so like it's all over the place, and I take very long to write as well. So if someone says, let's do a song, I'm always like, I'm not going to be able to deliver here. Because literally some days I'll write one line for the song, and sometimes I'm going to sit there for 20 hours and come up with nothing. So I'm always very self-conscious, about writing with other artists. And it's something that I need to get over. But I also feel like that self-conscious thing, it even affects my creativity because I get nervous and I want to deliver, and I don't give myself the time that I know I need, to give it my best, because I'm also very pedantic. And I don't want to waste people's time, so I rush myself because I don't want to waste their time. So I usually just stay away from it. It's too much anxiety. It's too much anxiety. But that song, I wrote it, how many years ago? Even 10 years ago. And it's a song that I know I cannot sing. I mean, it's an English song for starters. But it does this. It goes from here to there to here to here. It's a very complex song that requires a voice that can be, versatile, like that. So I've kept the song for the longest time, and I've just been like, who can I give this song to? And honestly, maybe I should do a challenge and see who's gonna do it best.
Maybe. I'm gonna hashtag and be a part of that challenge.
Just put it out in the public, like, here's a song, let's see if you can do it. Whoever can do it, I'm gonna get my label to run with it. Something like that.
Oh, man.
I think it would be a nice, maybe even give it to idols. Give them this song, let's see how they pull it off. It's that kind of a song. It does this. And I think it's a great song. That's why I said it requires a voice like Prince. Prince would have
something out of this world.
Like Prince would have gone down and gone here and then gone up and screamed and then brought it back, sang it quietly, whispered it, like that kind of versatility in a voice.
Oh, I'm very interested to see how that goes, and I'm very excited to see that even in the moments where you may pick yourself apart, that there is value in that, because the music that you make is so soulful, it's so moving, but also has this excellence to it that I think is a part of what you may perceive to be a flaw. So I'm so excited to see you and the different shapes that you will continue to take. But on a human level, I would like to actually find out what your center is. You obviously are a cultural icon. You have a reputation that precedes you. there's a lot of up, down, screaming, left, right, when it comes to, the life of being an artist in the music industry. But on a human level, what is your center? What is the space that you go to when no one else is there? What keeps you sane? Because there's a lot of insanity even in the process. There's a lot of ego death. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of brokenness. I think you've also spoken to how a lot of your creativity comes from loss and making room for the spirit world, as you've mentioned before. So what is the center? What is the core?
I don't think that's an easy question to answer. And now I'm responding as someone who lives with depression, because it can make you forget. But I think my children are the best gift life has given me. Because everything goes back to them and wanting to live for them, and sometimes living vicariously through them. I'm a very obviously complex individual, but they center me. They bring me back to the ground. And I don't know who I was before in that regard. I know that I was very lonely because I'm a loner by nature. So it was a self-imposed kind of thing. And my children have brought such joy and clarity into my life. When I feel lost, they bring me back. And I know that it sounds like it's not much, but having their love and their need of me, it takes me everywhere else that I need to be. Without having to necessarily grab something from the world. I have my own little world right here. And it's big enough. And it's enough.
Sure, it's very powerful. Well, I don't know if there's anything else to ask. And I think as I continue to engage with you on a human level, these questions will come up and this exploration will continue to exist. But I just really wanted to say thank you for existing. Thank you for allowing yourself to heed the call and to use all the many gifts as an expensive a human being as you are. We marvel at that. We learn from that. We are students of that. We are cheerleaders of that. You really are an artist of our times and even beyond our times. I'm excited to sing your songs as a human being and to literally sing your songs and to continue to just marvel at the life that you are. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for this moment. Thank you for what has been, what will be, and what is.
Thank you so much. And I have to say that, why have we not done a song together?
I don't know!
Perhaps that's my challenge. Maybe we should do a song together.
Now's the time.
You know?
Yes.
Perhaps that's what needs to happen.
Yes.
Perhaps this moment is leading to that.
Absolutely.
Or alluding to that.
Yes.
No, but Zoe, I have to say thank you so much for appreciating the work that I do. Even the research that you put into this interview, it speaks volumes to me. I don't necessarily have these kinds of in-depth interviews about, what inspires my creativity, my life, and all of this and all of that. And your insight into who I am is very much appreciated. And it's a very much welcome surprise. So thank you, my little sister.
Thank you.
And I love your work. I love your work very much. I love your style. I love your individuality. And do not ever allow anyone to change you. And the person that you need to draw from for for your art is already in here. It's in here. All of your life's experiences is all in here. Like, you don't need to go outside to find it. It's all in here. And thank you for being that person, because I see you. I'm just like, oh, she's doing well, that one.
Oh, thank you so much. And we learn from the best. So my descendants win in the literal sense, you know. It is a taking of the baton. It is being a scholar of this and being able to look at artists and human beings such as yourself. But thank you for such a heartfelt, genuine conversation, a sisterhood, and just a vulnerability. I really respect that. And yobonana, inyanya zesifuthi ziyakhuluma, so le ngoma le
And for
it's coming. Yes. Yes. Thank you so much, Sister.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we are